You're sitting in a meeting and your heart starts to race without any warning. No reason at all. You are looking calm on the outside, but on the inside, something feels off. So you know what? You're like, okay, that's okay. I'm going to keep on moving for that day. Now later on that night, you're lying in bed and you are wide awake. You're tired, but you're wired. So you can't really sleep. So what happens? The next day, you find yourself snapping at people, and sometimes the people who you care about the most. And then you start wondering why. What's going on? You know, the crazy thing about this is that menopause and perimenopause are not even anything that you are having on your list of things that could be going on in your body. Not even close. Today we're going to talk about some of the most common early signs of perimenopause and menopause. And you know what? It's not what you think. It's not what you think. Most women, when they hear about menopause, the first thing they think is hot flashes. Oh, it started with hot flashes. That's what we've been told. But here's the thing. That's not the most common first signs of menopause. They think that, right? So you might be thinking that if I am not having hot flashes, then I'm not going through perimenopause, menopause. And even, it's so interesting, on the Menopause Stories podcast, we hear, and when I discuss this with women, they're saying like, oh, I didn't go through menopause. Why? Oh, why did you not think you went through menopause? Because I didn't have hot flashes? Okay, here's the thing. It can look so different, right? So these menopausal and perimenopausal changes can look like anxiety. It can look like poor sleep. It can look like irritability or even brain fog. That's what's going on, and that's why it feels so unrelated. That's why we have women who we've had on the podcast, or even women that we have conversation with, because I love to converse with women. There's so much knowledge, right? From just sitting and listening to those who are more experienced, those are in the 70s, the late 60s, and they'll give you all this wisdom. And sometimes you'll hear from, I'm like, I didn't go through this. So it feels so unrelated if you didn't have hot flashes. But let's explain what's going on, right? So stress, work, and life are some of the things that happen. We start to explain away this whole poor sleep, irritability, and brain fog. Oh, I'm having poor sleep. Oh, you know what? It's just because you're stressed. That's it. You're stressed out. That's why you're having poor sleep. I'm very irritable. You're like, I'm feeling so irritable. And then we explain it away saying that, you know what? Work. Yes, you've had so much on your plate. So much on your plate. Brain fog. You can't remember. Why can I not remember? I used to be sharp. I run all these companies. One of our wonderful episodes is our episode with Anna Rieger. She runs multiple companies. And she's just like, why am I feeling this way? And the thing about it, we explain it away that, oh, you know what? It's life. I'm probably experiencing burnouts. But there is a pattern that's going on. There's a pattern. And if you miss it, you might stay confused a little bit longer than you need to. So let's name it. Perimenopause is a transition phase before menopause. When does it start? In around the late 30s or 40s. During that time, the hormones start to decline. But it's not a smooth decline. It's not this slide that we used to slide down when we were kids, and you're like, okay, we're at the top and then we're going down to the bottom, and it's a smooth decline down. It is anything but. At that time, the hormones decline, but it does so in a fluctuating state. So it's up and it's down, and most importantly, it is unpredictable. So estrogen rises, boom, then it drops. And then it spikes again. So the instability is what's driving all of these early symptoms. So it's not just that you have low estrogen, it's that you have fluctuating estrogen, right? So what's going on? What are you experiencing during this time of this fluctuating estrogen? So let's talk about what goes up first. And it's not usually the hot flashes. It's not the hot flashes. You know what it is? It's that feeling of anxiety. It's that feeling that this is so new to me, because I am someone who's in control. And this is a very common initial symptom of perimenopause, is that feeling of anxiety. I've had the honor of conversing with women and also interviewing women from many different walks of life, and many who are running multiple seven-figure companies. And one of the things that happens is that there is this sense of, why am I doubting myself now? Why am I doubting myself? Why am I starting to be anxious during this phase? I know what I'm doing, so why am I questioning myself? Anxiety, and then we start having sleep disruptions. In the middle of the night, you're not getting rest. We talk about some of that 3 a.m. wake up. And unfortunately, moods, irritability is a big thing that happens during these early phases when you are ushering in this menopause phase. So mood swing starts to happen, brain fog starts happening. We'll do an episode on that later on. Brain fog, where you just cannot remember what you were trying to say or do. And it can happen during even some of the most pivotal times. If you've listened to the episode with Dr. Conga Stevenson, you'll hear her describing her having brain fog in the middle of her TED Talk while she's doing her TED Talk on menopause. Right in the middle, on stage, in front of everyone, this audience, you get brain fog. And then another thing that happens, which I'm pretty sure you probably have noticed if you're going through this phase, is low patience. Everyone gets on your nerves. Your patience for getting things done has decreased significantly. I remember speaking to one of my patients, and she describes it that she said that she runs this wonderful company where she works with multiple people, and they're helping the community at large. And she says, I'm finding that I am snapping at my employees, and this is not me. I'm very patient, and I usually come from a very calm demeanor, and I'm able to explain and to also, even if they make a mistake, I help them guide through that mistake. But I'm finding that I have no patience, and I'm snapping at my employees, and this is not me. Another thing that might happen is that people start to feel overwhelmed faster than usual. And this is also when you're running multiple seven-figure companies and you're running either busy practice or you have an organization. When you're doing things that are high stakes, you know that you're being bombarded by decision after decision that affects a lot of people's lives. So the decisions are not going to only affect you, but it affects the lives of your employees, and also the decision will help to determine the outcome on where's your business going, the growth, the decline, all of this. But you're used to it because you've been doing it for a while. But then all of a sudden, you get to this phase where you start to feel overwhelmed faster than usual. That all are some of the initial symptoms when someone is going through the perimenopause to the menopause phase. So you might hear women start to say this: I do not feel like myself. I don't feel like myself. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize that person. I don't feel like myself. That is one of the most common phrases. I'll tell you that. The most common phrases, I don't feel like myself. Or you might see yourself saying, I used to be able to handle this. I don't understand. Why am I going through this? I used to be able to handle this. And if you've listened to some of the wonderful stories from our Menopause Stories podcast, and one of our guest says that I am sharp. I got to this point because I'm that sharp. We had a wonderful guest, Dr. Erica Bove. Dr. Erica Bove, she's a reproductive endocrinologist. And that means that she did training as an OBGYN. Then she did additional training in reproductive endocrinology to help with fertility. And she says she began to feel like she could not handle all that was going on. Why am I feeling so overwhelmed? She's a medical director and she's also a clinical director. So she had a lot of roles that she was able to do like the back of her hand, because that's just who she is, and she knows how to do all these things. But once she got to that phase of that perimenopause phase, she began to feel overwhelmed, right? Another thing that you might start to hear is, why is everything irritating me? Why is it that the noise irritates me? Someone chewing, smacking when they're chewing, it irritates me. Why is it that when they're slurping their soup, all of that irritates me? The sound, everything. Misophonia is a medical term for that. Everything is it's just louder than normal. Now you start to wonder, am I going through something? Is it me? Am I changing personality? Am I merging into this awful person? And the answer is no, you're not merging into an awful person. These are physiological changes that are going on, right? So we talk about our wonderful, wonderful hormone estrogen. And estrogen, we know that she has so many benefits within our body. And one of the benefits that she has is interacting with our brain. So specifically the neurotransmitters of our brain. When we think about that, our neurotransmitters, we really think about a chemical reaction. I often say to people, we think that we're truly in charge, but we really are just a body full of chemical reactions, right? So when we have these chemical reactions, we get the release of some of our wonderful serotonins, dopamine, and the GABA. These are some of the different chemicals that release to help with mood stabilization. It helps us to feel happy. It helps us to feel calm and focused. Now, estrogen, she interacts with the brain to help to release some of these things. When we are dealing with this huge fluctuation, then we start to notice that we are unable to just release some of these chemicals, and they're less stable within our body, and therefore we start to have the instability in our mood, such as when our serotonin becomes less stable, our mood drops more easily, right? You start to feel, dare I say, not as happy, right? So it's not directly that you are depressed, you're just not as happy. You can't put your finger on it, but you're just not as pleased or satisfied anymore. And oftentimes it can look like depression. It can. When the GABA, which is another of the chemicals that's released, when it is not regulated properly, it helps in its natural state. GABA helps you to feel calm. But when it's not regulated well, you start to feel more anxious. And that's one of the very, very, very common initial signs during this time, right? Your cortisol, which is our stress hormones, becomes more reactive. Now, one of the things that I have noticed is a lot of my patients work with me, and they also work with either a naturopath or an integrative medicine doc to work on reducing their cortisol level and their stress level. And I love that. I love working synergistically with our doctors there to really have a holistic approach to our patients in getting them through this phase of perimenopause and menopause to get them more optimized. So we start to work on the cortisol levels. They're working on that externally, and that has such a huge impact because our cortisol, as we said, is our stress hormone, right? So when you're not when your body's always in this fight or flight, then you never get a point where you're just restored. So yes, it can affect your sleep. Yes, it can affect the way that you think. It can affect how sharp you're going to be the next day. So it's an important part of this whole process. Now, another thing that estrogen helps to regulate is our body temperature and our sleep cycle. So when that shifts, our sleep becomes lighter. So any little thing you're waking up, it's more fragmented. And therefore, if you're not getting well rested sleep, then you're going to be tired. And when you're tired, you're more reactive. When you're more reactive, then you're not making decisions from a point of really being in control. You're making decisions based on just snap reaction. And sometimes if you're running big companies, if you're running important practices, if your life within itself, even if you are at home and you're running the day-to-day life of your family with a home, now we call it like a stay-at-home mom, but it's really like a home engineer, right? All of that is very, very important for you to be able to be in control because so many lives depend on you. So we noticed that a lot of this initially gets missed when a woman is in these early phases, that these symptoms, they really don't, sometimes you feel like as if you can't put your finger on it, right? So why does it get missed? Because it just feels like you can't really put your finger on it. They don't clearly say menopause. As soon as someone says, hot flash, they're like, ding, ding, ding. Oh yes, I know what that is. However, when you start sleep disturbance, I'm a little bit more irritable. My mood is off. Sometimes people can't put their finger on it. And so you have to just be so aware and so self-aware about what's going on in your body during that time. And if you're noticing some constellation of symptoms, you're starting to label like, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling burnt out, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling stressed. And it's all happening around that time where you're in the late 30s, early 40s. You can really take a step back and say, what's going on? If you find yourself trying to fix things and you're fixing multiple things. Oh, sleep. Okay, let me take a sleep aid. Oh, my energy level is low. My mood is off. Oh, I'm going to just drink more coffee. Oh, I'm feeling burnt out. Oh, I'm just going to push through. Take a step back. Look at the constellation of symptoms and try to ask yourself, wow, could this be something more? Is there a root driver that's there? Could this be related to hormonal fluctuation? Because when you're going through it individually, you feel like you can explain it away one at a time. But when you take an eagle's eye, a bird eye view of what's going on, you might be able to notice that this is hormonal fluctuation, and that although you're still having regular periods, there is a way for you to get support, and menopause, perimenopause should be on the radar of things that's going on. So there is a pattern, right? So your symptoms are going to feel cyclical or very unpredictable. One week you're going to feel great, and that's the thing, right? Then the next week things feel harder. Your sleep cycle might worsen, and then your mood might drop suddenly. So anxiety might start coming out of nowhere, and inconsistency. All of these things are the clue for you to take a step back and say, this could be hormonal fluctuation. Now, it's not, you have a personality shift. You're not going crazy. When you look in that mirror and you're saying that I do not feel like myself, that's usually the sign to say, let me take a step back and see if I can find someone to help me get through this phase. It can be explained away. Absolutely. Everyone is stressed, right? We all have busy lives. We all have so many things on our plate. But is it worth it for you to push through? Or is it worth it for you to get support and to be able to get that rest back, to get yourselves feeling back energized, to feel like the sharp, top of the line person that you know you are, the person who makes decisions, not doubting every question in themselves, doubting every decision that you're making? Isn't it worth it to feel better, to get yourself back to the you that you know? If this is something that touched you and it resonated with you, I want you to reach out. Book a free consult call with me. If you are in the Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois area, I'd be happy to support you during this journey. If you're outside of this area and this resonated with you, go ahead, reach out. Let me know what part and how I can support you. If this is something that you have heard in one of your friends, send her this episode. Send her this episode. You right there can be saving someone from many, many years of distress. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford, and I will catch you next time.